Olivia Whitaker was 32 years old when her parents humiliated her in front of 30 relatives on Thanksgiving night. The dining room glowed with candlelight and polished silver, but the air felt sharp. Margaret Whitaker stood at the head of the table, smiling too brightly as she handed Olivia's older sister, Chloe, a thick cream envelope. Inside was a 14-day Caribbean cruise package worth $13,000. Applause filled the room. Richard Whitaker raised his glass as if he had just closed a business deal. Then Margaret turned to Olivia and pressed a thin, wrinkled slip of paper into her hand. "This is more appropriate for your situation," she said lightly, loud enough for everyone to hear. It was a $2 Mega Millions ticket. Laughter followed, soft at first, then spreading. Grant Holloway leaned back in his chair with a smirk. Olivia felt the heat rise to her face, but she did not argue. She simply nodded and folded the ticket into her palm. No one noticed the quiet shift behind her eyes. Before I continue, I want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who has subscribed and supported this channel. I am truly grateful. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, please take a second to do so. It's completely free. We're working toward our first 1,000 subscribers, and every single click truly makes a difference. Like this video and let me know where you're watching from in the comments. Thanksgiving at the Whitaker house had always been theater. Olivia knew her role well. She arrived at exactly 5 o'clock carrying a homemade autumn salad and a bouquet of burgundy dahlias she had grown herself. Margaret opened the door, glanced at the flowers, and sighed. "Still playing in the dirt," she said before turning toward Chloe's voice echoing from the driveway. "There's my girl." Margaret rushed past Olivia, arms open wide. Chloe stepped inside in a tailored cream dress, glowing under praise. Richard remained in his leather recliner discussing real estate projections with Grant, barely looking up when Olivia entered. "You're here." "Good," he said. "We need help setting the table." Olivia placed her flowers quietly in a vase by the sink. She was a licensed landscape architect who designed corporate green spaces across the city, yet to her parents she was simply the daughter who worked with plants. She tied her apron and began folding napkins, listening to Grant describe investment opportunities in a voice too smooth to trust. Later that evening, while refilling water glasses, Olivia paused near the kitchen when she heard her name. The door was slightly ajar. Margaret's voice carried through. "The cruise leaves December 15th. 2 full weeks. First class." Chloe sounded pleased. "It'll be perfect." Richard cleared his throat. "Olivia wouldn't enjoy something like that. She's always busy with work." There was a brief silence before Chloe added casually, "Besides, it's expensive." Olivia stood still, pitcher in hand. No one had asked her if she was available. No one had asked if she could afford it. They had decided for her. She pushed the door open gently. "I'm not invited." 3 faces turned toward her. Margaret's smile tightened. "It's more of a family celebration," she said carefully. "Grant's promotion." Grant offered a polite nod that did not reach his eyes. "Nothing personal," he added. In the hallway, 90-year-old Evelyn Carter watched the exchange, her sharp gaze resting on Olivia with quiet understanding. The announcement came just before dessert. Richard tapped his wine glass for attention. "Family is everything," he declared, scanning the room of relatives. Chloe stepped forward as Margaret handed her the cruise envelope again for display. Cameras flashed. Then Margaret beckoned Olivia. The room quieted. The lottery ticket felt weightless in Olivia's fingers. "Maybe luck will finally visit you," Margaret said sweetly. A cousin chuckled. Grant muttered, "Long odds." Olivia forced a small smile. "Thank you," she replied evenly. The moment might have ended there if Evelyn had not spoken. "Margaret, that is unkind," she said firmly from the doorway. The room fell still. Richard stiffened. Margaret crossed quickly to her mother's side. "You're tired," she whispered, steering her away. As Evelyn passed Olivia, she squeezed her hand and murmured softly, "Call James Caldwell this week." The name meant nothing to Olivia then, but the seriousness in her grandmother's voice stayed with her long after the laughter resumed. Most guests left before midnight. Olivia remained behind, clearing plates and wiping counters. Chloe and Grant discussed cruise excursions in the living room while Margaret wrapped leftovers. In Richard's study, Olivia gathered empty glasses and notice papers scattered across his desk. A red-stamped envelope caught her eye. "Past due." Beneath it lay a loan agreement signed by Richard and co-signed by Grant Holloway for $180,000 at a 32% interest rate, terms a loan shark might propose. Her stomach tightened. She turned the page. Collateral documents listed Evelyn Carter's house. The signature was shaky, dated during the week Evelyn had been hospitalized after a fall. Olivia remembered visiting her grandmother then, confused, medicated, barely coherent. Her hands trembled as she photographed each page with her phone. The laughter from the living room sounded distant now. This was not favoritism. It was something darker. Olivia slipped the papers back into place and stepped outside into the cold night air, the lottery ticket still folded in her coat pocket. The lottery ticket sat untouched on Olivia's kitchen counter for 6 days. She almost forgot about it while replaying what she had seen in her father's study. On the 7th evening, unable to sleep, she opened the Mega Millions website and entered the numbers slowly. The first matched. Then the second. By the 4th, her breathing had turned shallow. When the final number aligned, she checked again, then refreshed the page. The results did not change. $100 million. Olivia did not scream. She did not call anyone. She sat at her small dining table, staring at the screen as traffic lights flickered outside her window. The money would be closer to $62 million after taxes, according to the payout breakdown. It was more than enough to change her circumstances, but that was not what struck her most. The ticket her mother had offered as a joke had just become leverage. She remembered Evelyn's words clearly now. Call James Caldwell. Olivia picked up her phone and made the appointment before doubt could catch up. James Caldwell's office overlooked the downtown courthouse, quiet and orderly. He was in his early 60s, silver-haired, composed, and careful with his words. Olivia explained everything, the lottery win, the loan documents, her grandmother's fragile condition. He listened without interruption. Your grandmother established a trust in your name 10 years ago, he said finally, sliding a folder across the desk. Inside were statements showing $500,000 secured for Olivia's future. Evelyn had insisted it remain confidential, fearing Margaret would pressure Olivia to use it for family needs. Olivia absorbed the information in silence. Caldwell then addressed the house. If Evelyn signed while heavily medicated, we can challenge the deed transfer. Medical records will matter. Olivia nodded. She had already requested copies from the hospital. We'll file the challenge immediately, Caldwell continued. Separately, you should claim the lottery through an LLC for privacy. Olivia agreed. The paperwork began that afternoon. For the first time, she felt not anger, but clarity. Aunt Teresa agreed to meet 2 days later at a quiet cafe across town. She looked tired but relieved to see Olivia. I was hoping you'd ask questions, she admitted softly. Olivia showed her copies of the loan agreement. Teresa sighed. Grant has been lending money privately for years. High interest. Desperate clients. She hesitated before adding, there's something else. Teresa turned her phone toward Olivia. Messages between Grant and a woman named Samantha Reed filled the screen, romantic, explicit, and recent. One message read, once the property deal closes, I'm done pretending. Olivia read it twice. Chloe doesn't know, Teresa said. Or maybe she doesn't want to. The pieces aligned with uncomfortable precision. Grant needed access to Evelyn's house to secure the debt. Chloe's marriage was not as stable as it appeared. Olivia felt a quiet shift inside her. This was no longer about humiliation at Thanksgiving. It was about protecting the only person who had shown her consistent love. 2 weeks after Thanksgiving, the Whitaker family gathered again for a bon voyage dinner before the cruise. Olivia attended without comment. Margaret assigned her simple tasks, centerpieces, coordinating the caterer, confirming the nurse's schedule for Evelyn. Olivia complied calmly. No one knew that her lottery claim had already been filed through a newly formed LLC. No one knew Caldwell had submitted a legal challenge on the house deed that morning. During dinner, Grant described snorkeling excursions and luxury dining aboard the ship. You sure you don't want to come? Chloe asked lightly. Someone has to water Mom's orchids, she added with a faint smile. Olivia returned the smile. I'll manage. Grant leaned closer. Buy another ticket lately? He asked quietly. Olivia met his gaze. You never know how odds can turn. He laughed, dismissing her. 12 days later, the cruise ship departed. The legal review of the house documents moved forward at the courthouse downtown. On the 3rd day of the cruise, local news announced that a Mega Millions ticket purchased near the Whitaker neighborhood had been claimed anonymously. The story circulated quickly through extended family group chats. Margaret sent Olivia a private message within the hour. You still have that lottery ticket, right? Olivia waited before replying. Yes. The phone began ringing minutes later.
Calls from Margaret. From Richard. From Chloe. Even from Grant. Olivia let each one go to voicemail.
By evening, the missed call count had climbed past 50.
She listened to the messages in silence.
The tone shifted from casual curiosity to urgency. Family should talk about big decisions together, Richard insisted in one recording. Grant suggested discussing investment planning. Olivia closed her phone and looked out her apartment window. The deed challenge was under review. The lottery funds were processing. The cruise ship was days away from port. She finally typed a single message into the family group chat, video call tomorrow night.
8 o'clock.
Everyone present. At exactly 8 o'clock the next evening, Olivia joined the video call. The screen filled with familiar faces gathered in what looked like the cruise ship's lounge. Tropical light glowed behind them through wide windows. Margaret leaned closest to the camera, her smile carefully arranged. "Olivia, sweetheart," she began, voice unusually warm.
Richard nodded stiffly beside her. Chloe looked pale but expectant.
Grant sat slightly apart, arms crossed, studying Olivia as if assessing a negotiation. "We heard some interesting news," Richard said. "About a lottery ticket." Olivia held his gaze. "Yes," she replied calmly. "I won."
Silence swallowed the room. Chloe gasped. Margaret's hand flew to her chest. Grant recovered first.
"That's wonderful," he said smoothly. "You'll need guidance with that kind of money." Olivia did not respond to the suggestion. "Before we talk about anything financial," she continued, "there are documents you need to see." She clicked to share her screen. The first image appeared, the signed loan agreement between Richard Whitaker and Grant Holloway. Richard's face drained of color as the contract filled the screen.
"Where did you get that?" he demanded.
Olivia moved to the next page, highlighting the interest rate and repayment terms. 32%, she said evenly.
"That's not a bank.
That's exploitation."
Grant shifted in his seat.
"It was a private arrangement," he interrupted. Olivia clicked again. The deed transfer document appeared, listing Evelyn Carter's house as collateral.
"This was signed while she was hospitalized," Olivia said.
"Medical records show she was heavily medicated that week."
Margaret's composure cracked. "We were trying to protect the family," she insisted.
"From what?"
Olivia asked quietly. Grant leaned forward.
"You don't understand business." Olivia paused before displaying the final set of screenshots, messages between Grant and Samantha Reed. Chloe stared at the screen as the words became clear. "She served her purpose,"
Olivia read aloud.
"Divorce papers are ready." Chloe's breath hitched. Grant stood abruptly and left the frame without speaking. The call descended into confusion. Margaret pleading, Richard stammering, Chloe crying softly.
Olivia waited until the noise settled. "Here's what will happen," she said calmly.
"I've already filed a legal challenge to restore Grandma's house. Once the review is complete, I will pay off the outstanding balance and remove the lien. The property will return fully to her name with legal protections in place."
Richard shook his head.
"You're humiliating us."
Olivia's expression did not change. "No.
I'm correcting something that should never have happened."
Margaret tried another approach.
"We're still your parents."
Olivia nodded once. "And she is still my grandmother."
She ended the call before further argument could begin.
The apartment fell quiet.
She stood for a long moment, absorbing the weight of what she had done.
It did not feel triumphant. It felt necessary.
Outside, city traffic continued as usual, indifferent to family crises unfolding across an ocean. 3 days later, the story took on a life of its own. Samantha Reed posted publicly on social media, sharing photos and messages that confirmed her relationship with Grant. She described promises he had made about leaving his wife once the property situation was finalized. The post spread quickly. Chloe filed for divorce before the cruise ship returned to port. Meanwhile, 2 former clients reported Grant's lending practices to state regulators. His interest rates, once hidden in private contracts, drew formal investigation.
Olivia did not participate in any of it. She focused on logistics.
The lottery funds cleared into her LLC's account within the week, totaling just over $62 million after taxes. James Caldwell finalized negotiations with the bank holding the lien. The outstanding debt, including fees and accrued interest, came to approximately $215,000. Olivia authorized the payment without hesitation. The paperwork transferring Evelyn Carter's house back into her sole ownership was scheduled for signing the following Monday. When James Caldwell called with confirmation, Olivia was standing outside her grandmother's house.
"The lien has been satisfied," he said. "The title is clean.
It belongs entirely to Evelyn again. We've added a protection clause preventing any future claims from immediate family members."
Olivia thanked him and ended the call. The house looked smaller than she remembered, its paint faded, garden overgrown.
She walked up the path slowly, imagining new accessibility ramps, restored flower beds, fresh light in the windows. Later that week, she visited Evelyn at the nursing facility. "We're going home," Olivia told her gently. Evelyn studied her granddaughter's face for a long moment before smiling.
"I knew you would handle it," she said.
There was no mention of money. No celebration. Only relief. For Olivia, the victory was not financial. It was quiet and practical.
A problem had been solved. A promise had been kept.
The next chapter of her life would begin not with confrontation, but with restoration. Evelyn Carter returned home in early spring. Olivia oversaw every detail of the transition.
A ramp replaced the front steps. Handrails lined the hallway.
A hospital bed was placed near the living room windows where sunlight filtered in during the afternoon. Round-the-clock nursing care was arranged through a licensed agency. When the transport van pulled into the driveway, Evelyn looked at the house as if seeing it for the first time. "It needs tending," she said, nodding toward the neglected garden beds.
Olivia smiled.
"That's my specialty." Inside, the air smelled faintly of fresh paint and clean linen. Evelyn ran her fingers along the dining table, familiar and steady. She did not ask how much it cost or how it had been managed. She only looked at Olivia with quiet certainty. "You chose well," she said. Olivia understood what she meant.
She had not chosen revenge. She had chosen protection. That distinction mattered.
Margaret called 2 weeks after the house transfer became official. Her voice sounded thinner than usual. "You've made your point," she said without greeting. "Your father had to sell the repair shop."
Olivia listened without interrupting.
Richard had defaulted on multiple obligations once Grant withdrew support. Bankruptcy filings followed.
The consequences were severe but not unexpected.
"I didn't make those decisions," Olivia replied calmly. "The paperwork did."
There was a long pause on the line. Margaret shifted tactics.
"We're struggling." The implication hung between them.
Olivia kept her tone steady.
"I ensured Grandma is safe. That was my responsibility." Margaret exhaled sharply, frustration breaking through. "You've changed."
Olivia considered that carefully. "No," she answered.
"I've stopped pretending." The conversation ended without resolution.
It was not dramatic, only honest.
Olivia did not block her mother's number, but she did not offer money either. Boundaries, she was learning, were not punishments. They were protections.
Chloe reached out differently. She asked to meet for coffee in a small cafe downtown.
Without Grant beside her, she seemed younger, uncertain. "I should have noticed," Chloe admitted quietly, staring into her cup.
"About the loan."
"About Samantha." Olivia studied her sister's face, searching for defensiveness and finding none.
"You trusted him," she said. Chloe nodded. "And I trusted Mom and Dad to handle things."
"I didn't ask questions."
The admission was simple and direct.
There was no request for financial help, no apology wrapped in expectation.
Just acknowledgement.
They spoke for an hour about practical matters, Chloe's new apartment, her job search, therapy appointments. The conversation felt unfamiliar but sincere. As they stood to leave, Chloe paused.
"Thank you for protecting Grandma," she said.
Olivia inclined her head. It was the first time gratitude had entered the conversation without competition attached to it.
That, more than anything, suggested change.
Over the following year, Olivia adjusted to her new reality carefully. She kept her landscape architecture firm active, expanding it modestly with 2 additional employees. Work grounded her. Designing public green spaces felt tangible in a way money never would. The majority of her lottery winnings remained invested through structured financial planning with James Caldwell's advisory team. She purchased a modest home near Evelyn's, close enough for daily visits. A rescue dog named Clover followed her through newly planted gardens as she experimented with native perennials. There were no luxury cars or headlines. Privacy mattered. The Grace Carter Foundation, named at Evelyn's insistence, quietly funded scholarships for young women pursuing creative fields. The work was deliberate and steady, not showy. Olivia found satisfaction in structure, budgets balanced, contracts honored, gardens thriving. Wealth had expanded her options, but discipline sustained them.
She did not try to rewrite the past.
She focused on building something stable in the present. One evening, as summer light softened over Evelyn's backyard, Olivia sat beside her grandmother watching newly planted tulips take root. The air carried the scent of turned soil and distant rain. "They'll bloom stronger next season," Evelyn observed.
Olivia nodded. Growth required time and protection.
The past year had not erased family fractures, but it had clarified them.
Richard sent brief holiday messages.
Margaret remained distant and unresolved. Chloe continued rebuilding her life with cautious independence. Grant disappeared from their orbit entirely, his legal troubles unfolding without Olivia's involvement. The crisis that began with a crumpled lottery ticket had ended not in spectacle, but in quiet restoration. Olivia understood something now that she had not grasped at 32, worth is not granted by applause or withheld by ridicule.
It exists regardless. The $2 ticket had never defined her. It had simply revealed the truth.
As the sun dipped below the fence line, Olivia stood, brushed soil from her hands, and locked the garden gate behind her.
The house was secure. So was she.
Thank you for staying with this story until the very end.
Your time means more than you know.
If Olivia's journey resonated with you, if you've ever felt unseen, underestimated, or overlooked, remember this: your worth does not shrink because someone else refuses to see it. If this story moved you, share your thoughts below.
I read every comment.
And if you'd like more powerful stories like this, consider subscribing so you don't miss the next one. Until next time, protect your peace, know your value, and never let anyone decide it for you.